of cosmetic surgery.
Despite its dream team of lawyers, the defense had suffered some major setbacks. But in the end, most analysts agreed Michael Jackson's lawyers made far fewer mistakes than the prosecution.
They had so much in this case, the defense, ammunition on the family.
I think if you're the defense going into deliberations, you're about as happy as you can get and about as hopeful you can get that things are going to go your way.
One of the first things we decided that we had to look at him as just like any other individual, not just as a celebrity. And once we got that established, that we could go beyond that.
On June 3rd, after 3 months of testimony, the jury began to weigh the case against Michael Jackson.
I really think that it went rather smoothly for this kind of a high-profile case. We were all trying to come to a common ground and decide, based on the evidence, what's going on here.
As the jury deliberated slowly and carefully, the frenzy outside the courthouse raged on. Media from 33 countries camped outside, waiting for the verdict. Jackson's fans kept up their vigil outside the courthouse and outside the gates of Neverland. Meanwhile, inside the Jackson Ranch, the star and his family waited for news, while outsiders offered their own statements on the case.
He is exuding confidence and strength, though he has excruciating pain in his back. He expresses great confidence in this juror's capacity to be fair.
The wait was longer than many expected, but on Monday, June 13th, after 30 hours of deliberations, the jury made a decision.
In the People versus Michael Jackson case, the jury has reached a verdict. The verdict will be returned in open court at 1:30.
The Jackson family left the Neverland compound and drove in a phalanx of SUVs to the courthouse. A dazed-looking Michael Jackson walked slowly through security. And once he entered the courtroom, the court clerk read the verdict.
We, the jury, in the above entitled case, find the defendant not guilty of conspiracy.
Not guilty on all counts. Moments later, while his fans cheered, the king of pop left the court in silence. His attorney said it all.
Justice was done. The man's innocent. He always was.
The decision was an enormous blow to District Attorney Thomas Sneddon, who had hoped to convict Michael Jackson in 1993 as well.
I've been a prosecutor for 37 years, and in 37 years I've never quarreled with a jury's verdict, and I'm not going to start today.
But the jurors said Sneddon had dropped the ball. He just didn't give them enough to go on.
Actually, lack of evidence, I guess, was what we used to reach the verdict.
The evidence in this trial was not strong. The accuser wasn't good on the witness stand. His story had a lot of holes in it, and so did the story of his family. And I think jurors looked at all of that and said, we're not going to send a man away for many years to prison based on this family.
The jury had to look at the evidence and say, you know what, maybe he's done bad things in the past. Maybe he did bad things in 93 and 94 and 95, but we don't believe he did it this time. And that's really what we're being asked. Did he do it this time?
If you're accusing somebody of a felony, then, that person is entitled to be convicted without a reasonable doubt. If this just wasn't the case where Michael Jackson was going to be found guilty of this, and that's not to say that he's an innocent man.
In the end, the jury did not trust the accuser or his mother, who rubbed many of them the wrong way.
I disliked it intensely when she snapped her fingers at us. That's when I thought, don't snap your fingers at me, lady.
The taint of the mother just rubbed off on this entire family. She was an unbelievable witness, and she basically ruined this case for the prosecution and for the family.
What will happen to Michael Jackson now that this trial no longer hangs over him?
Michael Jackson is a shell of the man that he was just 3 months ago at the beginning of this trial. This trial has taken such a toll on him emotionally and physically
It's been a terrible ordeal for him. He's had trouble sleeping, he's had trouble eating. It was an exhaustive 5 months, and fortunately we came out ahead, and now he can rebuild his life.
But as the world learned over the past 4 months, Jackson has a host of problems that still face him. He may face a civil suit from the same family or other accusers. There is also a move to take away his own children.
I think there's still a strong argument for removing the children from his care and custody. A lot less is needed to remove children than is needed to find someone guilty of a crime.
In addition, Jackson is saddled with more than $200 million in debt.
Although he's been cash-strapped, which has forced him to borrow, he nonetheless is still really asset-rich. You know, if Michael were to go out, liquidate all of his assets after this trial, pay off all of his debt, he would still moonwalk away into the sunset with about $200 million.
But that would mean selling his most prized assets, his share of the Sony ATV music catalog, which includes the Beatles songbook, and his showcase home, Neverland. Some observers think that should be the first to go.
Neverland is, I think, an albatross. A guy who's, who has gained this reputation, whether deserved or not, for being a person who has nefarious activity with kids, an amusement park is the last thing he needs.
The question now is, can Michael Jackson return to a musical career? Will he have an audience?
Michael will no longer be the king of pop. I think his fan base has diminished greatly as a result of these charges. I think there are a lot of people who will naturally be turned away from his music, no matter how brilliant it may be. But on the same token, I think there are also a lot of people who